Behind me is my 2019 Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road that I've been building for the last 2 years. But I was thinking the other day, if I had to start over, what would my first 5 mods be? So I was thinking about when I got my truck and the first modifications that I did to it. And now that I have more experience and I've taken it off-road and I've used it a lot, I would do things in a different order. So I wanted to put a video together to help someone who may be going through that process, help you think about things that you wouldn't otherwise if you don't necessarily have the experience. So hopefully this helps you out. If you are experienced and you disagree with anything that I've said, let me know, because I would love to hear other people's perspective on their builds. But everyone's build is a little bit different, so this is not necessarily advice. This is just based on my experience and my thought behind my build. These are the first 5 mods I would do. Anything that we're going to cover in this video and anything that you've seen on this channel before, all those products will be linked in the description below. There's some affiliate links there and some discount codes as well. So if you want to use those, I would greatly appreciate it because it helps me out and I dump all that money back into the channel so I can continue producing content for you. So I'd really appreciate you ordering through those links. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into the top 5 list. So the very first thing I would do would be rock sliders. This is something I put off for way too long, and it's way too important to have waited for as long as I did, but rock sliders would be the first thing that I would do. I went out with a completely stock Tacoma, and all he had done were rock sliders, and he kept up with all of us that had lifts and oversized tires. Rock sliders just protect your truck. They protect the bottom of your doors. They allow you to pivot around tight obstacles if you get the kick out option. They also protect the frame rails on your truck, so you can get away with a lot with rock sliders on there and not have a lift because of the protection that they give you. They also double as steps. So there's so many different options on the market. I went with Cali-Raised 25 degrees with a kick out because I really like the kind of subtle, sleek look of it. But you can get flat ones that stick out a little bit further and they work way better as steps. You can get it with or without a kick out. Some people do a little bit crazier designs, but there's so many options for rock sliders. So you just need to do some research, figure out what works best for you. Second modification I would do would be skid plates. This is again something that I put off for way too long. In fact, I didn't replace mine until I had an incident where I really mangled the stock front skid plate, which is a one-time use thing if you're lucky, because it's crap. I went with the RCI skid plate, and it's been great. It's really thick steel. I forget exactly how thick it is, but it's super heavy, very sturdy. It's saved me quite a few times already. It's a great skid plate. However, if I were to redo it, I would probably get the CBI skid plates. They just offer a bit more coverage, a bit more protection. They are more expensive and they are heavier, but I think they're worth it because of the added protection that they give. There's a lot of other companies that are coming out with new skid plates for the Tacoma specifically. You have Cali-Raised that looks like kind of a hybrid between the CBI plates and the RCI plates. They look pretty nice. And then C4 is coming out with some as well, although I haven't actually seen them. So we'll see what those look like, but I really like what C4 is doing, so I'm sure they're gonna be great. But just do your research, figure out what you need, what works best for you. You can also get them in aluminum, but they have a tendency to gouge and you can actually get caught on obstacles if you come down on them hard enough. So steel's the way to go if you if you anticipate encountering a lot of rocks, like big rocks. Either way, if you end up going with either CBI or Cali-Raised, definitely use the links in the description, because again, it really helps the channel out. 3 and 4, I'm gonna lump together because you can't do one without at least thinking about the other. And that is wheels and tires, or just tires, and a lift kit. So let's start with tires. When you're looking at tires, you have to kind of determine, do you want to stick with the stock size or do you want to go oversized? I think the main consideration there is what kind of terrain do you expect to encounter? What's common around your area? If you have bigger obstacles, stumps in the road, or rocks, or just big potholes or something like a staircase type of a thing, bigger tires are going to help you get over those obstacles a whole lot easier. Another thing you want to think about is weight. The bigger you go, the more weight that is, and that's unsprung weight, so that's going to affect your vehicle a lot more as far as how hard your engine has to work and how poor your gas mileage is. So that's something you have to consider as well. If you want to go oversized, depending on how big you go, that's why you have to start thinking about suspension, or think about that before you get suspension, because if you go with 33s on the Tacoma, you have to get at least 2 inches of lift and upgrade the upper control arms. The upper control arms corrects the caster, so it moves the wheels forward a little bit in the wheel well, so you don't have as much of a rubbing issue. But again, so these are 2 things you have to think about. Whether you do them together or not, they at least have to be considered together. When you're looking at the suspension, you already thought about the tires, so you know what your requirements are for the front of the vehicle as far as lift and everything. But in the back, you want to start considering, well, and the front, you want to start thinking about how much weight you're going to eventually add to the truck. I have a rooftop tent on mine. I want to get a high clearance rear bumper. Haven't decided what I want to do for the front yet, but I'm pretty sure I want to put a steel bumper on the front as well. So those are all things you have to consider when you're upgrading the suspension. You want to plan for that weight and build to that weight, rather than build the stock weight and then have to redo things down the line when you start adding things. That's where I'm at now. I have the rooftop tent. I have those other modifications that I've talked about that I wanted to do, but I didn't think about those before I put this lift kit on. So now I have to redo the lift entirely, which I might have given away a future video right there. But think about these things before you buy the lift. How much weight are you gonna add? Is it gonna be temporary weight, or is it gonna be permanent weight on the truck? And what size tires are you gonna go with? Those are all things you need to think about when you start to do these mods. So the 5th modification that I would do would be an air compressor. Airing down your tires does a lot for you. It helps you with traction because it gives you a bigger footprint. It allows your sidewalls to flex a little bit more, so you can it can wrap around obstacles a little bit better. And then it also cushions the ride. So when you're bombing down a forest road and it's a lot of washboard, or you got big rocks in it or something, that's gonna cushion things, so the ride is gonna be a little less harsh, and it's gonna reduce fatigue as you're driving, because that gets a little obnoxious after a while. So it does a lot for you. Airing down is something you can do with your keys or with a pocket knife, but airing back up, you need something special for that, and that's where this onboard air comes in. So I'm running an ARB air compressor, just the single tank, and I've mounted it in the engine compartment on a CBI plate made specifically for the Tacoma, and it has been a perfect setup. But I didn't have this until pretty recently. I was running a air compressor that I got at AutoZone for like 60 bucks. I was running that for the longest time. It worked perfectly. It took forever to air up, but it worked. But you have many different options. The cheap AutoZone one works. Like I said, it takes a while, but you never know when those things are gonna die. Some people get 2 uses out of them before they die. Other people like me, mine's still working, it's just in my commuter vehicle. So that's an option. The ARB air compressor, the onboard air, is a classic option. A lot of people go with that. I love mine, but you can still have issues with it, especially, you know, depending on where you mount it, because you get dust in there, it clogs the filter, it gets hot, and it can fail. And then you have something like the power tank, which is essentially a scuba tank set up for airing up your tires. I really like that option because there are far less things to fail, but it can still leave you stranded because you have to refill it. And if you forget to refill it, then you don't have air anymore and you can't fill back up. The other thing about that is they're massive and they take up a lot of room. So they're super cool, but you know, pros and cons to each of them. Either way, an air compressor would be the 5th mod that I would do. So those are the first 5 mods that I would do, and I would personally do them in that order as well. Like I said, having my truck for 2 years now and doing this build, I've learned a lot about it. And had I done these things in this order, it would have saved me a lot of money. I had, instead of just buying rock sliders, I just bought some step bars because I wanted to save money. I ended up coming down on those quite a bit when I got a little more into off-roading, and they held up, but it was so risky, and I should have just bought the rock sliders because when I had to replace those, I had already spent money on step bars, so I wasted money there. I'm completely having to redo the suspension because I didn't think about that prior. Although this 5100 kit has been great, I've enjoyed it. I'm further along in my build than I thought I was gonna be, so I'm redoing the suspension. So hopefully this video helps you out. Hopefully these are some things you can think about and consider before starting your build. And if you've already started and you agree with what I say or you disagree, let me know. I would love the feedback because I really like hearing other people's perspective on their build. And this also varies per location. You know, I live in the mountains. That terrain is going to be far different than someone who lives in the desert. So take everything I said and apply it to your specific situation because it may differ from my build. Anyways, hope it helps you out. Again, if you want to buy any of the products that I've mentioned or anything you've seen on the channel, please use the links in the description. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new and not subscribed, consider subscribing. I mostly try and do adventure videos and stuff like that, but I have a little newborn now, so I'm gonna knock out some of these types of videos. It's been a while since I've done that. I have a big modification coming up for the truck, and so I'll make a video on that. After that, I can do a updated walk around of my build. So look forward to that. But until then, I hope you get a chance to get off the grid and off the grind, and I'll see you guys in the next one.